So today in the morning, I was playing with my native straps and my Sinn, my 104, and it dawned on me that it's been a year since I actually own it. And the reason for that is because, well, I tend to gravitate more towards NATOs and canvas straps during summer because it gets very warm. And in winter, I go more for leather or metal bracelets. So I said, well, what about if I actually make a long-term review of the watch? I know I've only owned it for a year, but I still feel like it's long enough to be able to say a couple of meaningful things. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and if this watch is actually staying for a while longer with me. The first thing that I do have to say is that the 104 is my daily watch. That means that I wear it around 4 to 5 times a week. And daily means different things also to different people. So I think I have to explain a little bit what daily looks for me in order for you guys to make sense of, oh yeah, that explains why it's a daily watch. So I work mostly at home. Sometimes I do have to go to some meeting or some whatever, but most of the times I'm at home. And at the same time, I, really like going to the forest with my dog. So, and I live in a very green area. So in that sense, I need something robust, I need something that, I'm not really into dress watches. I love how they look, but they don't suit my day-to-day, my lifestyle. I'm not wearing fancy clothes most of the times. I am doing home stuff, and sometimes I'm breaking something or like putting my hand where it should not be, So I need something that's slightly robust, but at the same time gives me that flexibility to, if I need to go to a meeting, I can put it on a leather strap, boom, or I don't know, like I want to use something more comfortable, NATO, boom. Oh, I'm looking for something a little bit more sporty, metal bracelet, boom, go. So in that sense, the 104 works very well. But there's some other things. As a freelancer, believe it or not, sometimes you forget which day it is. And in that sense, being able to just do a quick wrist roll and seeing the time is incredibly helpful. Seeing the day and the date is incredibly helpful. You might be surprised the amount of times that I really do this on a weekly basis, and they say like, oh yeah, having a day date, it's great. And believe it or not, it's hard to find day date watches after a certain price point. Or if you are not looking, for example, at your Seiko or your Citizens that tend to gravitate more towards that complication, there's not so many watches with a day date. I know there's some German ones like Sinn, there's a Damasco, there is actually a Fortis that is also very good, the Cosmonaut, and there is, I think Mido also has one, but overall there's not many options. So the 104 in that sense is very good. Then I actually really find the countdown bezel very handy, and let me explain why. As a freelancer, I mostly work as a musician, and one of the roles that I have to cover more as a musician is to give lessons, and most of my lessons, if not all of them, are 1 hour. And the countdown bezel is great to be able to time those things, because then with a quick glance of the watch, I can very quickly tell just by seeing the minute hand how much time left the lesson has, which on the very big scheme of things is pretty much the same as, okay, if you see that it's, I don't know, 35, that you already have 25 minutes left, but just seeing that, just seeing the thing on 25, it's just that small second extra that gives you that you can just go on the fly, and I really find that handy. I really find it helpful. Also, sometimes your lessons maybe don't start on the exact hour. They don't start at 6, but they start at 6:15. So being able to rotate that bezel also makes it very handy. The bezel action, of course, is not the best bezel action that you're gonna get on a watch. It's a bidirectional bezel, which can be very handy. But I think it's functional enough, and overall I feel that that's kind of what this watch is really about: maximum functionality. Like take the functions that you do and do them the best you possibly can. So you have a very good bezel. The day-date complication is extremely handy, both in English and in German. I only use it in English because I don't speak German. Then it's highly legible. I have the Sinn 104A, meaning A Arabic numerals, and this is for me the best version of the 104, mostly because I really think that the one with batons has like extra indices, and it's a tad too much for me sometimes. I think it still looks great, don't get me wrong, if you have one of those versions. For example, the white version is beautiful, but for the black dial, which in my case represents the maximum versatility in a wristwatch personally, the version with numerals is much more legible for me, at least. And also in that domain, the anti-reflective coating is superb on the watch. You can basically tell the time from almost any angle. I don't really know why would you necessarily want that. Like 99% of the time I looked at the time like a normal human being, but still it's pretty cool to know that you can basically watch the time from odd angles without any trouble. And also, for example, the glance on the sun, you can reflect very well. The lume is good. I don't really particularly care much about lume, but it's very good. It's highly efficient. Sometimes in winter, for example, when I go to walk the dog and it's still night outside, the lume is still working, and it's actually very cool, very great to have. And of course, I think something that people care a lot is the accuracy, right? We're wearing mechanical watches, of course, they might not come close to a quartz or a solar or like a radio control watch, but I'm glad to report that after a while the Sinn 104 is holding very well. I was not the first owner. The first owner was another guy that I bought the watch from on Chrono 24. He had it for around a year and a half, so this watch must be 2 to 2 years and a half old. And at least in the year that I've owned it, I received it that it was running on +4 and it's still running +4. So you could say that it's basically at COSC accuracy levels without really being COSC certified, of course. But it explains very well, or that is explained very well by, of course, the level of regulation and care that the Sinn headquarters factory has in Frankfurt, right? My version is the new. I have it with the Celita movement, the top grade, with the rhodium dial, which I personally prefer than the gold dial. I think it's more cohesive with the design. I think the gold rotor, sorry, I don't know why I say dial, but the gold rotor makes much more sense in a watch of this type. I would really not even mind if it was a closed caseback, but still it has 200 meters of water resistance with an open caseback, so I think that's great. It's like probably 198 meters more than what I need for my heavy dishwashing duties. But yeah, that's great. Now I do have to say, in the department of German efficiency, that there is one thing that I would complain about, and it's the anti-magnetism of this watch. I've had this watch magnetized twice in a year. To be honest, it's not that great of a deal because I just demagnetized it with a cheap Amazon tool, so it took me 2 seconds, but still, supposedly the watch is anti-magnetic, and it says like anti-magnetic on the back case, like as a feature of the watch, but it has still happened. As you can see, I actually wear my watch on the right, and so the crown is in the side, and I think that the reason why it has been magnetized is because when I work on the MacBook, the battery is actually to the right side, kind of on top of the watch, and that has magnet. When it's charging, sometimes you can feel even on the computer sometimes that there's like a small vibration. So I think that could have magnetized the watch. It's the only explanation that I have, and you could say, hey, maybe that's way much more gausses than what Sinn promises. I'm not sure. I really don't know, but the truth is that it's being magnetized twice, and I know, of course, it's not a meta certified watch, so I should not expect it that it cannot be magnetized, but still I thought perhaps that it would not be the case for such a robust and well-built watch. Now, a couple of negatives, as we were already talking about the anti-magnetism, is that well, I would really like if this watch had drill locks. I know that overall it's not a very popular thing nowadays, but I feel like drill lugs would make more sense for such a strap monster. Also, like the straps and bracelet from Sinn don't have any sort of quick release. So okay, it's not much of a work. You just take the pins, put something else. But I don't know. I think it's those details when you're reaching to a certain price that you would like one or the two. It's rather you give me some sort of quick release pin, or you put some drill lugs. I don't know, something that makes the work way easier. Another negative is the weight, and this is very personal because I know that some people enjoy having their watches on a heavier side, but when you wear this watch with the bracelet, it's very heavy. Granted, I own a third-party bracelet. I have the Sharp 017 Miltat oyster-like bracelet, so it's not the OG, but it works very well in my opinion, design-wise I mean. But I know that it weighs pretty much the same as the H-Link bracelet. I've done my research there, and it's also the H-Link bracelet is very heavy, and it's just like, I don't know, like 150, 165 grams overall. But I think it's a lot for like a watch on summer. For example, if you compare it with like, I don't know, like a mono titanium watch or something. This is very personal, but it's kind of sad because sometimes I want to wear my watch on a bracelet in summer, and it feels like having a rock attached to your hand, So for example, if they were to release a 104 titanium, I think I would buy it, or at least I would consider it very much. Okay, now that I've kind of told you the good and the bad, there's also a couple of things that I might be worth mentioning about the watch itself that personally I don't mind, but you might encounter some issues with that. So the first one is the aluminum bezel. I tend to prefer aluminum bezels than ceramic bezels because they're not so shiny. I know that there's also some ceramic bezels that are like matte, but it's not the standard. Most of the aluminum bezels are very shiny, and that's a no-go for me. I personally don't enjoy that vibe. I try to be more under the radar. That's something I like about the Sinn a lot. It is very much under the radar, which kind of gives me to the second point. It's not a watch that people are going to recognize, of course, or at least most people won't recognize, which some people care about, because when you're spending a certain amount of money, maybe you want something for a brand that gives certain, I don't know, cash or whatever. On a personal level, I enjoy that. I feel it's also more safe going to the street with a daily watch that people just don't know what it is. And I buy my watches for myself, but some people care about that. And another thing is the movement. It's of course not an in-house movement, but a Celita movement. So for some people that might be an issue. I'm of the idea that especially a tool-like watch should not have an in-house movement, unless it's like a Seiko, because then it's an in-house movement, but not really. You see where I'm going? Like, I feel like top-the-shelf movements are way better for like tool watches that you're going to be putting under stress, as you have probably seen in the B-rolls of the video. So, well, that's kind of my attempt of doing a long-term review of a watch. It's the first time I've actually done this, so I understand if I've been a little bit all over the place. I always appreciate the feedback. I would also like to read in the comments, of course, if you also own a 104, or if you have a 104, what do you think about it? I am also, interested about learning more about this watch. And finally, of course, is this going to stay long-term or not? Well, the truth is that I don't know. If I had to rate it from, let's say, 1 to 10, I'd say that the 104 has like a solid between 7 and 8, kind of 7.5, let's say, chances of staying, so like a 75% chance of staying long-term. And the reasons are that it sits on a price point where it would, add enough to the funds for getting something a little bit higher, maybe. But at the same time, I don't know if I really want something higher, because this does everything very well. So there is a high chance that it will stay, but I do see myself maybe in the future not having to sell it, but using it as a bargaining chip for something better. Maybe, for example, a watch that I really like are the vintage Tudor subs. And in my eyes, I know this is an aviation watch, and the Tudor sub is is a diver, but in my watch they kind of fulfill the same role, you know, like black bezel type of. You know, this has a Celita, the Tirusab has a Neta, but overall they're kind of like very similar, you know. But the Tirusab has more of that cliche. I prefer the angles of that watch. I like that relax, of course, that I was talking about. There's a little bit of cash of also owning a watch that has been used more in military use, for example, you know. So while the 104 is more like, yeah, it's just a very good, modern, robust watch. So in that sense, maybe. But overall, I don't see changing it because of the watch itself, but more because, hey, it could help me get something a little bit more to my taste. But I would not necessarily say better, because I would not necessarily say that the Tirusab Mariner, for example, is actually better than this 104. This 104 does everything very good and very well, you know. So yeah, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in another video of the Watchbox. Bye.